I first started making videos using my actual decks with a webcam. And then I switched to a better camera. But I still was having issues with lighting. The glare on the sleeves was difficult to deal with. I didn't want to take the cards out of the sleeves. Um, and sometimes the camera wouldn't zoom correctly, auto zoom. I had to hold the cards a certain height from the camera. It was difficult, and I didn't think there was much benefit to doing so, and I still had to type out the deck list to share with people anyway. I switched to just using different presentation methods, Prezi, just PowerPoint, Canva, and so on. And they were okay. I ended up using slides for most, or PowerPoint slash Google Slides for most of it. But I decided to move away from that as well. So now I'm going to start doing Moxfield. I get to have the deck list already there for to link to, so that I can share it with people. I can make edits to the deck list so I can keep it as a living deck and put that in the comments on the deck, as well as post them to YouTube for people watching the video later on after I've made meta changes and so on. So let me know how you like this format. Please comment on it and let me know if you like this format with Moxfield, or if you check out my other videos. I've got the ones where I use the actual physical decks, as well as the videos where I just did a presentation. The only negative, in my opinion, of this format is that the card image is a little bit smaller than I'd like it to be, which is a little difficult to read. But the presentation format, being able to sort the creatures and so on, sort all the different card types, I think that's pretty useful. So for now, I think I'm going to just leave it this way. Anyway, so here's Syr Gwyn. This deck is probably on the mid, like lower, I would say it's like lower mid in terms of power level. It's pretty solid at 1v1, and it's very strong within a casual play group. The problem with the deck is that I have powered it down a little bit to keep the knight theme there. So there are a few knights in here that could easily be cut for better cards. We could up the tutor count, and we could up the removal count to make this a more powerful and probably a more interactive deck. As it currently stands, it's really a equip creature and swing type deck where you just hope it gets there. Anyway, so for Planeswalkers, we have a Johnny, Caller of the Pride. He gives something flying and double strike. That's the main ability you're going to use. And that's really good at killing people with your commander. Most of the time, your commander's got one or two pieces of equipment on her, and you target her with the Johnny, and that's one player's out. Duretti is used to recycle artifacts, help get them back when they get destroyed. He also is good for recovering. He's really good for cheating artifacts into play from the graveyard. Elspeth, she's pretty straightforward. She's there again mostly for the flying. If you're in a slow match, you could use her ultimate, and that would make you have a really, really hard time losing the game. So I think she's worth running. You could add a couple other Planeswalkers maybe, but those are the primary ones I would do. I don't have Nahiri. I don't have Nahiri in here. I haven't found any Nahiri versions to be strong enough to put in here, but you could. Akiri. So this one is really just here for card draw. The indestructible part is a bonus, but she's primarily in here for card draw. Armored Sky Hunter, it's high. It costs a lot of mana, but the effect is pretty strong. I mean, you get to look at the top 6 cards of your library, and then put an aura or equipment from among them onto the battlefield. And you get to attach it if it's a creature. You get to attach it to a creature if it's an equipment. So it's really good. I mean, there are commanders with similar effects to this in other colors that get used, and they work pretty well. Esper Sentinel. I've only had this card come out a couple times so far in playtesting. It's okay. I think it's good. But the downside, of course, is that it's a soldier and not a knight, so it doesn't benefit from Syr Gwyn's passive. Sorry, not passive. Her It doesn't benefit from her ability. Fervent Champion is pretty straightforward. It's just a cheap knight, first strike haste. It's easy to equip stuff to it early game before you get your commander out. Halvar, he gives your equipped creatures double strike. He also allows you to move stuff around, which if you have Syr Gwyn out, you don't need, and if you don't, then that's a nice bonus. But he's pretty solid. Hero of Bladehold. This card could get cut for a lot of other things. It does a lot of damage on its own. If it sticks for a couple turns, which it typically doesn't. It gets to make you tokens, which is nice. Kinsbell Cavalier gives your knights double strike. Pretty straightforward. Knight of Dawn. This card, it's not as bad as it looks. Being able to choose colors to give it protection from, it's pretty solid. I haven't wanted to cut it yet. Knight of the White Orchid is just mana ramp, but it's bad mana ramp more or less. But it's still okay. Cold of Forge Master. This one just helps creatures come back if they die. They don't go back to play, but they go back to the hand. So it's Wrath Protection. Mirran Crusader. This is an absolute house. This is a nasty, nasty creature. Yeah, absolutely need to run this in the deck. Mother of Runes, auto-include. Odric is pretty fun, and he can result in some pretty scary combats. He's definitely like a win out of nowhere type card once you get a couple equipments out. Phyrexian Crusader, similar to Mirran Crusader, it's really good and pretty scary. It's definitely a threat that needs to be addressed by your opponents, or they'll lose pretty fast. Relic Seeker is a tutor, and it's a pretty good tutor. It's slow, which is really the only downside, but it's pretty good. Rayav. So this one is like Halvar. It gives equipped creatures double strike when they attack, or if they're enchanted. So he's really solid. I mean, the fact that there are 3 double strike effects in the deck, it's pretty good. You really adding those few effects has made a big difference. Sorry, 4. I forgot about Silverblade Paladin. Wow. Yeah. So Silverblade Paladin and it's double strike again. Sky Knight Legionnaire. This is just OG. In fact, this is OG, and I've been playing this card ever since the original Ravnica. Boros was my first guild, and it was like my first deck that I bought like a precon of and played against my little bro against his Selesnya deck. And yeah, that was fun. Point is, I like this card. It does have flying and haste, so you can almost justify it, but I mean, there's better stuff. Sky Night Vanguard. It makes tokens. Early game, that's going to help you a little bit with not getting killed, hopefully. SRAM, it's card draw, which, the deck is obviously thirsty for. Stoneforge Mystic, equipment tutor, straightforward. Stone Hero Giant, slow equipment tutor, but it does put onto the battlefield and attach it to a creature, so it's worth it. There's no question about it. It is worth it, but it is very slow. Like, if it's in your starting hand, you almost don't want it in your starting hand. Sun Titan. This is just to help reanimate permanents. The deck has a lot of permanents that can get targeted by this, so it's very worth having in here. Next we have Sorcery. So obviously we could do Vampiric Tutor as well. We've got it's an instant, not a sorcery, but I'm saying like in terms of tutors, right? So we have Demonic Tutor, Knight's Whisper. It's a knight deck. You draw 2 cards, you lose 2 life. Open the Armory, search for an aura equipment card. Again, it's a tutor, it's good. Read the Bones, card draw. Single Combat and Slash the Ranks are both auto includes in this deck. Both of them allow you to keep your commander and then destroy pretty much all the other creatures on the board. So you can't argue with that card. These 2 cards alone have won me most of the games that I've won, is drawing that with your commander equipped. Chroma's Will. This card is ridiculous. This card is absolutely ridiculous. Creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, double strike until end of turn, and if you control, or they gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors. And if you control a commander, you can choose both of those modes. Yeah, for 4 mana, it's an instant. So that card's nuts, disgusting. Boros Charm. Give your creatures indestructible, or give your permanents indestructible and give a creature double strike, or give a creature double strike. Chaos Warp, it's the best removal red really has in EDH for the most part. Let's not argue. Enlightened Tutor, again, we should have Vampiric Tutor in here ideally. I do have one sitting out downstairs. I'm trying to figure out which deck I want to put it in. If I play this deck more, I'll probably put it in here. Orum's Chant, it's worth having. When combat didn't go your way and someone's trying to swing out and kill you, you have this to save yourself. Silence, it's there for a lot of reasons, combo players mostly. But again, you can also just use it to prevent people from casting spells during your combat when you go to swing out. So it's worth using. You have to cast it before combat and have it resolve fully, just so we're clear. Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, whichever one you want to use. You could do both, There are slots in this deck. Like I said, there are creatures and cards in this deck that are not optimal that could come out for more removal and for more tutors. Utter End, it exiles a permanent, Narnlem permanent. You could do Vindicate if you want on the lower curve. I like the fact that it exiles it. As more cards get printed, more problem combos come up and exile becomes more important. So our artifacts, I wish I could have sorted between a subtype. I probably can. So Arcane Signet, auto include, best ramp. It's like $1 now. Yeah, $7. You should have one in every deck and just buy like 20 of them on TCG Player right now for like 20, 25 bucks. You should just have them. Boros Signet, it's fine. Colossus Hammer, this card's hilarious. It's so janky, but I love it. Commander Sphere, you could cut this. It's okay. It's card draw. That's how desperate the deck is for card draw. That's why it's in here. Conqueror's Flail is really, really good. This also wins a lot of games. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn when it's equipped to one of your creatures. So it's like having a Grand Abolisher, which you should also have in this deck, which I have had in the deck in the past. I think I took the Grand Abolisher out maybe for, I want to say maybe Esper Sentinel. Embercleave, it's good for blindsiding opponents. Hammer of Nizan, this is a really good card. It gives you another auto-equip effect. And it also, it gives the equipped creature indestructible, which is nice on your commander. Rakdos Signet, Orzhov Signet, they're signets. Mana Crypt, it's Mana Crypt. Loxodon Warhammer, it's not that good, but it is lifelink and trample. And when you have big creatures and you're playing Magic and you're not goldfishing, then lifelink and trample can be relevant. Lightning Greaves. So Lightning Greaves is dangerous because it gives Shroud. You have to be really careful with this card and make sure you have another equipped target. Otherwise, you can find yourself having issues with your equipment. Cauldron Complete. I just put this in. I played like one game where I actually had it come out. It was pretty hilarious, but I'm not 100% sure if it's really worth having in here. Unless you can cheat it out, it's questionable. It is good though. I mean, it is powerful. It's a living weapon. So Jeweled Lotus. You basically should put this in every EDH deck. If you have a commander, you should have it in your deck. I don't care how many colors the deck is. Fine. Child of Alar. If it's a 5-color commander that costs 5 mana, then don't, right? Otherwise, yes. Shadow Spear. It's mostly in here to make your opponent's permanents lose hexproof and indestructible. The trample lifelink is just a bonus. Card's really good. It should go in most EDH decks, I would argue as well. At least in my meta, in the groups I play in, this is a pretty necessary card. Soul Ring, it's ramp. Sunforger. This card's really good. You can surprise Silence, surprise Orum's Chant, grab like a Source of Plowshares out of your deck, out of nowhere. And you could grab Utter End to exile a permanent. Like, there's so much stuff you can do with this card. It's awesome. It also can get you a Chroma's Will. So, I mean, that alone is just obscene. Swiftfoot Boots, we already been over. The swords. I like them all. Feast and Famine is the best. Light and Shadow is the worst. Fire and Ice is actually also the worst, but it has card draw, so sort of Light and Shadow is the worst. Of these three is the worst. You could probably put different ones in. War and Peace is not a bad option. I just grabbed the ones that I had laying around. I have Judge Foils of Feast and Famine and I think Fire and Ice and Feast and Famine. I think I would judge foils off. So I just like them for that reason. I gotta double check. I might be wrong about which ones. Sword of the Animist is a good card. It ramps, you know, Talisman of Conviction, straightforward, and Umezawa's Jitte. It's good. The ability to pump it, the ability to pump a creature is really where this tends to shine. So, yeah, it's a good card. Land tax. This is pretty straightforward. It's lets you tutor for lands. I think white needs it. Really quickly, let's go over the lands. It's a pretty standard mana base. You can tweak it as needed. I would say that you definitely need to have Rogue's Passage in here because making one of your creatures unblockable is really, really good. Other than that, everything else in here is flexible. Cavern of Souls is definitely nice. Mutavault is definitely nice. And Tournament Grounds, those are all pretty solid. Ancient Tombs is really up to you. It does cause a lot of damage. So, it's a tough call. But yeah, so that's the deck. Here's the curve. It's a reasonable curve. It's a little high. I'd really like it to be more here instead of more here. And again, you could tweak that and get some of the creatures out and put in cheap removal. If you want to make this deck more competitive, you would just take out Sky Knight Legionnaire, you would take out Knight of Dawn, you would take out Hero of Bladehold, and you would probably take out the Sky Knight Vanguard. And then I would add in Vampiric Tutor, I would add in Path to Exile, I would probably add in like one more board wipe, maybe, and then I would probably just add in like another defensive spell. Teferi's Protection probably is what I would add off the top of my head if I wanted to make this deck a little bit stronger. But yeah, so again, this deck isn't 100% optimized, but it's a reasonable base. So yeah, again, let me know how you like the format. I think it's pretty fun. You do get to you can also play test here. So hands. So that's another cool thing I like about Moxfield. Tapped out does it as well. That's not a good hand. You would get a new hand. I don't know how to just shuffle the hand. But yeah, so it's interesting. I think this is how I'm going to do at least in the next couple of videos. I'll ask for feedback in them and then see how people respond. All right, have a good one.